Hi, I'm Roberto Martinez and you're watching Toffee TV.
Welcome to Toffee TV. We are back in the Winslow, our spiritual home. It beats being in your back room anyway, Baz. It is
My
Ped.
back room's nice, actually.
It's not shite. Right, it's here with Ped, Baz, and we're joined by the guys from Everton USA. We've got Dave, we've got Marshall. We've come all the way from LA to this lovely climate, or whatever you want to call it. Come all the way from America to come and watch Everton. I've got no idea why, but we'll be asking you guys in a little bit all about that. First of all, Baz, it was the Merseyside derby. We were all terrified about what was going to happen with Liverpool. Fantastic form, best form in the league, and yet it was a bit of a terrible game, to be honest, wasn't it, mate?
Tactical game, wasn't
Tactical.
it? According to
Phenomenal.
and tactically excellent, according to Brenda. But I was made up, given that Sky's week promotion of the Gerrard derby was all about him and what he was going to do and the memories he was going to leave us with, and it left us with nothing really, did it? No goals. Did he touch the ball about 3 times?
It was a strange one, wasn't it? Because we did speak about this last week, saying about the 3 centre midfielders. It worked out basically as we both predicted. Martinez does watch our shows.
Definitely watch.
It did work out like that, and that sort of stifled the game for me. I thought Roberto got out of the game really what he put into it.
Well, it was almost the same line-up as at Anfield, wasn't it? That's when the first Bezic, McCarthy and Barry first played together in the 1-1 draw there. And he kind of done the same thing. He pushed Lukaku out wide, like we said, like we thought he would. Naismith operated more down the middle, and obviously Morales on the left-hand side. But, I think he learned, we had the pleasure of sitting down with him, didn't we, in May after, and we spoke at length about the Anfield derby. And he said he'd learned something that night, and it was probably how not to get thrashed by a team on the counter-attack. So I think he set up right. I think people were, I thought, were overly negative of Everton's tactics on Saturday night. I thought he played it pretty cautiously like we did at Crystal Palace and hoped to hit them on the counter, and it almost worked a treat.
Dave, you come from a culture where football is like, it's not the number 1 sport, and it's games like that why it's not the number 1 sport. So how did you find it? I know you were excited about being in a Merseyside derby and all the rest of it, but from a football point of view,
I enjoyed it. We were watching the world's best players play a fantastic game, and you're right. Tactically, it wasn't the most interesting game, but look, you never know what's going to happen. And so for me, it was 90 minutes of nerves in the main stand, just sitting there going, I hope, I'm not sure. Please don't go the other way. And it's always great to, it's great to be surrounded by all our fellow fans who are all biting their nails the entire time. Yeah,
Marshall, you've been here before. You were at Goodison Park last year, and you watched us win some games, which was lucky for you. Yeah. It's good that you have come back. Going into the game, Dave, some of the nerves there. How were the nerves before the game?
Well, you have to remember, our nerves start 7,000 miles away, and we stew with nerves and our anxiety on the plane, the train, the taxi, into the hotel, and we've been looking forward to this trip for 6 months, and everyone who's come over have been looking forward to this, and you got to shoot on goal to score. Yeah. And that's a real simple thing I think all Americans can understand, and to have like a half shot on goal in this match. I thought, Ross Barkley should have played longer. They should have maybe started him, I don't know, but he sure brought a lot of pace to the match when they put him in. But on television in America, you don't see everyone standing around doing this. Yeah. Why didn't you pass it to me? And John Stones is running, he's looking at Lukaku, and they're like this, and the game's going, this way on them. And it's just interesting to see that the tactics didn't include that, I don't think, of those guys kind of bickering with one another. Like, you didn't pass it to me because I'm going to turn around and pass it way back towards to the keeper. So.
That's funny, because I mentioned that on Twitter on Saturday night. People talk about the game, and they see it very, very differently whether they're in the ground, where they're in the ground, or whether they're watching on TV. It is something, isn't it, Baz? We've been brought up and we've watched this for 30 years. We know exactly how it goes. For people who are coming to the ground and experience it for the first time, it can be completely different.
Totally different, because obviously the television's following the ball, and if you're not, what the chance you get at the ground is you can watch everything else that's going on, when the ball's down the other end, what positions players are taking up. Even in attacks, the camera's obviously focused on the ball, you're seeing what's happening at the far post or whatever, so you don't always get the true picture watching it on TV. Obviously, you're still getting to see it, and you're still learning and seeing goals and seeing everything else, and you can identify who's a good player who isn't, but it's everything else that goes on when you see it live.
Now, we've mentioned the cautious approach, obviously having 3 centre midfielders in there, lacking in that little bit of extra we mentioned there, Ross Barkley. I mean, that's how we wanted it to be though, wasn't it? He wanted to go in there solid, try and get something out of the game. You know, Liverpool coming in, as we said, on hot form. It was all about getting something out of it, I think, for me.
Definitely, I think most of us would have taken 4 points on the Friday night before Crystal Palace away from those 2 fixtures. I don't think Everton are in a position even now where we can just fully relax and go for games. You know, I think one of the criticisms that probably most of us had about Martinez, certainly over Christmas, was we were just doing the same thing every game. We were just going out with the same attitude every game, as we'll just try and win. But games came quick and fast, and we lost games, and then people started saying he's got no plan B, he doesn't know how to keep it tight at the back, and it's going to drag Everton down, we've got to get into a relegation battle. And whether or not it's been the players, whether or not they've sat down together in Qatar, and said, look, you know, we need to be a bit steadier, we need to be a bit more pragmatic, a bit more cautious, have a bit of a different game plan. But that different game plan's got us 4 points out the last 6 by being a bit more cautious. So I didn't want us to come here and go, you know what, we're going to play 3 strikers, we're going to go for it, and we lose the game 3 or 4-0, because we would have been back to square one, and everyone would have been levelling that same thing at Bobby again, which would have been he can only play one way, and he's proved the last couple of games. I mean, really, it's got gradually better since the whole game, hasn't it? And it is baby steps, and we all want to get back to flow and football of last year, winning every game, but you've got to take those, you know, small steps to turn it around.
And they really did mix it. Roberto really did mix it up throughout the game. So we saw Lennon start on the left, move to the right, to the other side. We saw, you know, Joel is kicking it down the pitch. He's also playing it out from the back. There certainly did seem like a moment where Tim Howard, there was no way he was going down the pitch, and it's nice to see that we can, you know, take what's given to you. Exactly. You know, that's the saying in American sports. You know, if they're going to give us the flanks, we got to take the sides. So.
Was there a disappointment though, Marshall? And you mentioned it before that we didn't see something maybe late on, a Barkley being brought on a little bit early just to change the game, maybe to go for it. Because I mean, we can sit here every week and we can say, well, we want it tight and we want to just go out and point up, but you guys have come 9,000 or whatever miles it is away. You do want to be entertained at the end of the day. So from that point of view, would you have liked to have seen a little bit more entertainment and maybe defensively being a little bit more sacrificed?
No, I mean, I think the entertaining for us is to a draw or a win, and the entertainment is from, you know, just everyone here around the park and all the supporters making us feel so welcome, and we just had a good feeling. You know, when we came last year for the Welsh double, we thought the American luck would help prevail, but you know, it was a very entertaining match. You know, high energy. I thought, you know, the supporters were just, you know, out of their minds, and everyone was singing the whole match, and that's really what we came to see. And we, you know, wanted to get 3 points, but I think we're satisfied with a point.
Yeah, the pubs were fun afterwards with a draw.
Yeah.
We weren't drowning our sorrows, and that was a key thing.
You wouldn't have been drowning your sorrows.
I think when you're talking about coming all that way, it's all very well. You want to come and see us. We all, you know, at the tucker, at deflection, the worst game ever in a deflection, but we don't want to lose. It's no fun flying 7,000 miles.
Isn't everyone's going to say, oh, those Americans? I don't know.
I think you're totally right. We definitely had a defensive focus, and Ross Barkley is a great talisman, but there's also a lot of time where he's he can give it away in bad positions, and you know, maybe he needed 20 minutes and not 10 minutes, and there might have been a goal there, but you know, I think that's you're right. We've gotten the results that we could want for the last couple weeks.
The only kind of thing I thought was, obviously Stephen Naismith was clearly concussed after landing on his head.
But so was the guy last week in the Super Bowl. They didn't take him off.
No.
They won it.
Yeah, but he probably knew what he was doing. I think Stephen Naismith gives you that all action, get stuck in and everything. But you could see clearly when a player just goes down and there's no one there, and it's a worry, you know. And you could see when he got up, he's shaking his head as if to say, I don't know what happened then, why I'm on the floor. And his input got less and less and less. And a lot of people have criticised Lukaku's performance at the weekend, but not half of it, but certainly a contributing factor to that is Naismith wasn't getting up and supporting him, because for me, he just became a passenger because he wasn't fully at it. And I think that the only criticism I would really have of Martinez there is that we could probably see from the stands that Naismith wasn't on it, and I think there's definitely a case there for Barkley or even Kone coming on with say 20 minutes.
Let me just spin that round a little bit. I mean, you come from that obviously NFL culture in America, and head injuries are a big thing in America now. Do you think that should be taken out the hands of a player and a manager? Where, you know, because if he's got a head injury, surely someone else should be taking responsibility for that kind of thing now.
Absolutely. And look, there's one rule change that you have to make in order to recognize head injuries, which is that if you have to take a guy who's off that's concussed, you need to get another substitute, right? You need to add a fourth substitute to what's going on. And then we can actually care for the players. And I understand that's a fundamental rule change that FIFA would not like to do and the Premier League doesn't want to do. But you can't give a team a disadvantage for taking a concussed player off. And you know, that really should be up to the referee to say, head injury, take him off, you get an extra substitute so that you can make a sub now. But with 3 subs, you have to be precious about it, and you have to know. But and look, the story of Kramer in the World Cup, where they let him stay on. He gets that horrible concussion very early, and he walks up to the referee and says, "Wait, are we in the World Cup final? Is this the World Cup final?" Like he's asking a bus driver where he is. You know, that's a major event. You got to take that guy off, and it shouldn't cost Germany potentially the World Cup for doing the right thing. And look, football just hasn't done the research that they have here. In the United States, kids are starting. There are a couple leagues where kids have to wear headgear, and I think we're going to see that the concussion's not about the ball hitting your head. It's about players hitting your head. It's about you hitting the goalpost, and you're going to see that there's going to be an issue in this sport as well. And hopefully it's dealt with appropriately, but we all know that the powers that be are pretty good at putting stuff under the rug, and it'll be best when it's addressed.
And less and less youth are playing American football now because of that very reason. As parents are concerned about their kids getting injured, head injuries rather than MCLs or ACLs. So you're seeing more and more people playing soccer than American football all the way through high school because it's considered safer in some ways.
That's a win-win then.
Yeah.
Big part of the defensive, obviously, how it's got back in the last 3 games has been Stones and Jagielka. They've been absolutely fantastic there at the back, and that's hopefully going to continue now. Touch wood, no more injuries, but that's so important, isn't it, to the way we're playing?
Definitely, I think we've for the last few years we've built on Jagielka and this time me playing a slightly more direct game. I think to play the way Martinez wants us to play, Stones is vital to that, and I think the one thing he's done is he's come back in and he's been throwing himself in the way of shots, and that's kind of been infectious. You've seen Jagielka make an important block on Sturridge sort of late on Saturday, and the players have got back. We talked about it last week, importance of throwing yourself in the way of shots, getting blocks in, and making those challenges that we weren't making in the first third of the season, and that it always seemed to end up in the back of the net when we weren't doing that. So if you've got 2 lads who they're going to be there for you, know how they play, and everyone else knows they're solid, it builds that foundation from the back, and everyone has a.
I think as well, what we've seen is Jagielka's been able to defend now. He's gone back to being a defender, hasn't he? And Stones can take that other side of it.
And while Besic has grown into his role, I mean, he put Coutinho in his back pocket the entire first half, and he's making those blocks you're talking about, and it takes a lot of pressure off of the central midfield.
McCarthy as well, obviously coming back as well. But one question I did want to ask you two, definitely. Martinez has said today that Tim Howard is the number 1, and it's his to lose. We think he lost it in October, but I mean, coming from the American point of view, because we do have a little bit of a good little arguments with Americans now and again. You obviously take the side of Tim Howard. I have no problem with that, but what's your feeling on it, Dave? Do you think
Absolutely. Look, Tim Howard is one of the greatest big game goalkeepers of all time. You have big games ahead of you. And granted, there's the World Cup letdown, but they have that problem at Bayern. They have that problem everywhere. He's your number 1. He's the number 1, and he's the fittest guy on the team, so he's the number 1 for a while, I hope. And look, I think he was very limited. I think people knew exactly what he was doing, as you said, they weren't making the blocks. So I saw as an American, we do all the math.
Yeah.
And the math was saying that Tim Howard was making all the same staves that he normally made, that Everton was not making the blocks outside the box that they normally did. So we were seeing those long-range shots go. And now that when you play 3 central midfielders, it certainly makes it a lot easier on the goalkeeper. And Tim will continue to make great saves. I mean,
But the interesting point is that his career will end one day, and the American sport will continue. And that's something that I think people really need to understand is that we're not fair weather Tim Howard supporters.
And we don't want to see him in the MLS.
No,
You know,
we
he started in the MLS. He's an Evertonian. He loves the club. We know how much he loves the club. And in a big game, give me Neuer, give me Howard, and the rest of the guys are secondary.
Because
there you go.
It's Math's fault.
Yeah, the 40-person
It's
support
Matt's
that came from America, they're with, it's the club, not the players necessarily. So, that, like I said, the day will come when he's no longer a goalkeeper for anybody.
Yeah.
And, but we'll continue always to support Everton till we die.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I'm going to say that it's not an American thing because, I love America, by the way. But I just think at the moment his form has dropped off so much for us because I think at one stage he was statistically the worst goalkeeper in the Premier League at one time this season.
It's still Math's though.
Still maths, but 50% of the shots were going in.
Pull up my
And
computer here.
I think as a goalkeeper, I think the problem for Tim Howard has been he's never really had any competition here, ever. It's always been the number one since he come in. He looked over the bench. I think me and Ped are more of a threat than the likes of Jan Mucker and people like that for him. And I just think that Joel's got in now and has done very, very well. We've tightened up. And I think it'd be wrong to just say, Tim, you've fit again, there's the gloves back. I've got no problem with him performing well in training, maybe playing a couple of under-21 games, getting his sharpness back and coming back in. But I just don't think, I think it sends the wrong message out to everybody. If the minute your players get fit again, you take it. It's like now with we've got a situation with Bezic now, haven't we? Because, okay, he's played 3 centre midfielders at the weekend. Is he going to do that? He may do it at Chelsea. Is he going to do that at home to Leicester City? Or will he come out and will Barkley go in? And then we sitting here will probably say it'll be Bezic who comes out because he loves McCarthy, he loves Gareth Barry, and yet that's unfair because Bezic has been one of our best players. So I think in order for your team to progress, everybody's got to feel under pressure. If you start thinking, I've got my shirt no matter what, your performances can drop off.
And look, I don't disagree with that at all. Absolutely. And it's great to see Joel progress as he has. And, I've always loved his attitude even from the Wigan days when he was crying on the pitch when they went down, knowing full well that he was moving on, but still, not wanting to be there for that. And doing the same when he beat Man City. So, I think he's a very capable guy, and it's really great to see him. It seems like the first game he gets after a long sit on the bench is always, you never know what you're going to get.
Yeah,
the second game, he's there. And he's, certainly the West Ham game, which we were watching in Los Angeles. I mean, brilliant performance. And that's the sort of, that to me looked like a Tim Howard performance. Like those days when you just can't get anything by him. I still think he's one of the great shot stoppers you're ever going to see. Tim Howard has a unique
I think for us,
ability.
I think the worry for us, and we've talked about this with other players, is we don't want it to get, because he's been such a great goalkeeper for us since we signed him, we don't want it to get to the stage where he's getting called out for every single mistake and it becomes a case of get him out the club and he's remembered differently. It's happened kind of with Silva and Distan this year. Distan's been marvellous for Everton. It's only really this year it's caught up with him and people now don't want to see him again and everything. And you don't want to be left with that kind of bad taste in your mouth. And I think if he gets back in on merit, everyone will say good, But if he starts dropping clangers again, he's got to be pulled back up because everybody's got, for me anyway, everybody's got a fear for being dropped.
I just think it's interesting what Martinez has said regarding looking for another long-term goalkeeper because that starts things spinning in my head. I don't think Tim Howard's here for the next 3 years. I just don't see it. I just don't see it. But we'll see. I mean, it's an interesting one. It really is. Just talk about the subs finally. I mean, what did you think about the subs? Lennon coming on, obviously. For me, though, I just thought it was a strange one, taking Morelos off at that point. And I also think Kone could have come on and affected this game just to hold the ball up because it was obvious that Lukaku struggled towards the end.
I think at the time, I could understand why he put Lennon on because we needed to try and just that first 15 minutes after half time was all Liverpool. They just had, in the first half, it was quite even really. not much happened. Both of them had the ball for periods of time. That first quarter of an hour, the second half, we couldn't really get out. They weren't doing anything, but they just had the ball. So we understood why Lennon was ready, because he's hoping that he's going to get them going the other way. Morales hadn't really done much, but he was running around trying to put tackles in. And for me, it would have been Naismith, because Naismith at that point was gone. And I would have liked to have seen Lukaku in the middle, Lennon one side and Morales the other, and then say to them, like, we've had an hour, now you're going to go the other way now. Yeah. We've got 2 lads who will run. Then if they continue to dominate for another 5 or 10 minutes, then maybe pull Morales off and stick someone like Barkley in, or someone to shore it up. But I'm with you, for the last 15 minutes, Lukaku should have come off and Kone should have come on, because we've seen in little bits just how strong Kone is, and I think he would have had them 2 off at the back. Yeah. I think he'd have just kept it, and it might have brought other people into the game. Yeah,
I was disappointed Sacco never got worked more. He's just one of the worst defenders I've ever seen.
Did they actually pay money for him, or did they win him in a game?
Because someone had a raffle somewhere. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it was a meat raffle.
Yeah. Someone has actually paid money for him.
I won myself a defender.
He was awful.
He's always awful.
Yeah. But you have said it yourself, maybe you'd like to have seen Barkley a little bit earlier coming on the pitch.
But I thought Aaron Lennon, when he came out, I mean, the pace he had, he had a lot to prove in the first minute. And I think you saw that.
Definitely. And I think going the other way as well, he really done some good work defensively as well on that.
And a couple guys on our tour with the announcement of Aaron Lennon got some Aaron Lennon
right in
eyebrows.
The stands, we were shaving.
Right, we were shaving everybody's eyebrows.
and decided they weren't going to smile.
He's so gangster that way. Yeah.
So overall, were you happy to take the point, considering?
Yeah, I think a defeat would have set us back. It would have kind of said, "Here we go again." Look, I'll always want to beat them no matter what, and you do. The game finishes, and you look back, you think they were there for the taking, because they're not great. Put it this way, I'd be more concerned as a Liverpool fan, given he spent close on £260 million, and they couldn't beat us when we're not in any kind of form. So, and he didn't really look threatening. So, from their point of view, but from us, it's about, like I said before, this has been a shocking season for many different reasons. So, to come out of it with a point when we don't play well and we move on, we've got another tough game coming up, and then we've got winnable games coming up. So for me, it was okay.
And look, the 2 derbies really are decided by 2 fantastic Mignolet saves, right? I mean, he had 2 fantastic, you won't see those again from him the entire season. He saved them.
Yeah.
We've always got Jags' goal anyway, haven't we?
Yeah.
We always go back to Jags' goal.
In my mind, I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah.
We'll put it this way, we've had our worst season that we've had for a long time, and we haven't lost it.
Yeah.
Either league derby, I'm not jinxing anything with Europa League, and
Graham
Sharp saying he wanted to be in the Europa League.
I'm just glad Gerrard just was awful and never got his fairy tale goodbye and all the rest of it. And you have got to put up with him now for the rest of 2 years or whatever it is.
Los Angeles is not happy getting Gerrard. There are plenty of Evertonians in our group in LA who are not renewing their Galaxy tickets at all.
He'll be brilliant for Galaxy though.
Yeah, well, who knows?
Just pretend he's someone different.
Yeah, no, they'll cover him and they'll say, oh, it's Steven Gerrard's last. He signed an 18-month contract. So he's going to play, potentially, he could get a knock and play like 5 games out of the 18 games. Remember Beckham? He signed a 5-year contract. He didn't really play until the 3rd year.
Yeah.
He had a couple knocks. He came in, after a full season. I mean, think about that. He's going to finish his final Premier League season, goes directly to LA. He might take a couple weeks. Look for a nice house in Malibu.
I just think it's nice. It's nice he'll be able to play them Hollywood balls in Hollywood.
Stay away from Bruce Jenner as well. Right, let's move on to you guys. Obviously, you're over here on the tour that you've put together. The pair of you have put together. I mean, you did the first one last year. Everton USA. I mean, just give us a little bit of idea about the background of it.
Sure. Well, look, we were supporters groups all over the country. There were about 5 or 6 about 5 years ago. There was a fantastic one in Chicago, and I'm a big fan, and I connected with them, and it seemed like something we needed to do in LA, even though we wake up at 4, the LA group wakes up at 4 o'clock in the morning for your noontime kickoffs. We pay off a bartender in Santa Monica to open and serve us beer, and about 3 years ago, NBC, one of our big networks, got the Premier League, and so we actually get better access than you do. We get every game live. You can finally really follow it. And I got on a plane and sat with Robert Elstone and said, we're going to do America big for Everton. And they have been nothing but supportive of us building out a real business. As a matter of fact, we did a deal with Kit Bags, so we manufacture American hats and scarves, and we're trying to make stuff that fits people and make stuff that the women will wear. You have different sizes here, so we started with the merchandise, and now Everton's the only club that you can buy a ticket to in the Premier League in the United States. They've given us access, in advance so that we can actually plan our vacations and come on over here. The idea that we got this many tickets to the Derby was ridiculous. I hope Liverpool doesn't hate us, but when they said you can come for the Derby, we came. Yeah. So it's been amazing. Everything we do has been sold out. And when you guys came over to your preseason, and hopefully next year's preseason will as well, we held events all over the place. We have 60 groups. They raise money for Everton in the community all the time. Speaking of Tim Howard, we kicked off the season with Tim Howard Appreciation Day in 60 pubs across the country. Just because I don't think people understood that Tim Howard is Everton. And we really wanted to capitalize on all this love. And we're also the guys behind the Tim Howard craziness on social media. So there's some guys who are fantastic at Photoshop who started in with the things Tim Howard can save and turned it into a global phenomenon, which was really pretty cool.
And the club, they, like Dave said, they've been very supportive of all of our efforts. Bringing us over here, sending us stuff to raffle off. But I think most importantly, they understand that America is an untapped market. That there isn't. It's not Man U or Arsenal or Real Madrid who has the monopoly on the football fan in America. They understand that thinking American, speaking American is a great way to open up new revenue streams to sign bigger players. And they need more fans. You're not making too many more here in Liverpool, so you have to really go to America, go to China. They're going to Singapore. So, America's big, sports sponsorship market. Unfortunately, they've, like I said, been forward thinking to let Americans kind of spearhead some of their efforts over there to, raise money.
Do you know any billionaires? Do you want to buy the club?
That's we're working on it. We're working on it.
We're saving our pennies.
We really are. We're trying to get them over here.
You mentioned that tour, though. I mean, that was a big important step, I think, for you guys, wasn't it? The tour
in 2013.
Everton sold more Everton supporters in the U.S. bought more tickets than the Real Madrid supporters in the U.S.
So why did he hate? Why did the people who organize it hate us then?
I can't tell you. There's a handful of people in America. There are a handful of people in America who come from the bias that you guys all do. But most of America, and Everton USA is really interesting because it started out with expat Scousers, a couple guys like me, and now all the groups are run by, it's pretty funny, they're almost all like 40-year-old soccer dads who live and die Everton. And they, this is something that they do with their, it's a really American fan base, and not necessarily, Scouser specific. Whereas the Bayern Munich fan base is very German, and the Juventus is all the Italians. Everton is very American, and look, we are a country, we have no bias, right? So you tell a kid that Everton's bigger than Man U, he believes you. And they don't know any better, and they watch on the weekends. I mean, part of where the Premier League sits in the American sports world is that, and why it's been so successful is you're on a totally strange time, 7 o'clock in the morning West Coast, 10 o'clock on the East Coast. There's nothing competing with it. And that used to be where kids watched cartoons, right? The network you're on, the Premier League's on, used to have a block of cartoons. Now kids are waking up. My wife loves the Premier League, loves Everton, because I wake up, put the kids in the kid, sit on the couch, and she sleeps until 10. And that's all she wants. So there's a whole generation of kids growing up who Everton is an American team, right? They only know Tim Howard. There aren't too many Americans playing in the Premier League. And when you really look back, from Tim Howard, Landon Donovan, those are probably the two best players we ever produced. And of course, Joe Max Moore. How do you like it? How do you like it?
I mean, I think the thing, me and Ped have spoke about this, particularly in the summer after the World Cup, we were imploring the club to hastily arrange a pre-season friendly with the Red Bulls for to say goodbye to Tim Cahill, to kind of welcome Tim Howard back, because we realised that is, you know, for many years, Evertonians in this city were quite proud that it was insular. Liverpool went, oh, it's all the day trippers from everywhere else. And we were made up to be 80% or 90% is from the city and all that. But I think the way that the game's grown globally, we've got to reach out to the likes of America and China and everything else, because that's how your club grows. And you know, we embrace it, we love it, we both love America anyway. But it's fantastic to hear you guys talking so passionately about it. And you mentioned one of the questions I had for you, you kind of got out the way early on, and that was obviously about Tim Howard. So when Tim Howard leaves, will that, you know, for Marshall, for you, will the interest kind of diminish a little bit? Or
I don't think so whatsoever, and I don't think Americans hate Everton. I think they don't that other teams have done a better job marketing to Americans, right? And we're just trying to make Everton a more attractive brand in some ways. But I think when Tim leaves Everton and he becomes an NBC commentator on Saturday mornings, every chance he gets, he's going to say, Everton forever.
And Everton's getting better at telling their story, right? Like, no one knows who Dixie Dean is.
He'd
and
be
they
the
don't do
most
a good
famous
enough.
player
If
if he
you
was still
go
alive.
to Manchester United and you go on the tour and you hear about Busby's boys and you hear about the class of '92, they're really good at telling the story of what they're all about. And Everton has just as interesting a story and just needs to be much better at telling what it's all about.
Well, I've always said if Dixie Dean was an American sports hero, there would have already been 10 films about him.
Absolutely.
Because his story just, I mean, his story's legendary, and you know, even the thing going up to Germany and sort of putting two fingers up to Hitler, just all these little kind of
unbelievable
Steve Rogers kind of things. You know,
Early
these,
moves and it was a motorcycle crash.
yeah,
and
there's
everything.
all kinds of
So
things.
they couldn't play again.
But what I was referring to there more than anything else, I mean, the tour, you know, that was a fantastic tour, and I'm so disappointed I couldn't get over to it, because I knew how big it was going to be. Do Everton need to do that more often? Because what I've seen
they need
is
to do it consistently.
because Chelsea have gone every year, haven't they, for the last 6 or 7 years?
Yeah.
And I'm continually told that Chelsea's jerseys are probably the most
Sure.
biggest sellers now in America. So do Everton have to go over and keep that presence there? Because like everything else, you can be big one day and gone the next. So do Everton just have to keep knocking on that door?
They do, and the key to Everton is actually the Evertonians, right? If you see a guy wearing an Arsenal shirt walking through Manhattan, there's a 50% chance that he just bought an Arsenal shirt while he was in London on his way back at Heathrow. If you see a guy in an Everton kit in the United States, you can stop him and talk for 5 hours about Everton, and he will love to talk to you about it, right? There's no half-assed Everton fans. They're either in, they know what happened last week, they know all the players, they know what happened the week after, or what they're doing this weekend. And so I think the reason why Everton was so sticky for everyone that we've been involved with, and these are people who made totally rational decisions. They're not from here. They have no tie to any town in England. They sat there and watched and went click, 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 and after a season said, I like those guys. And you know, I think part of that is what we do, and getting together in pubs everywhere and finding another person to get you even more entrenched in it. Part of it's having access to come here. You know, if you have an American sit in Goodison Park, I don't care if he played for Inter Milan, he's going to come out an Evertonian, right? Like, I don't care how savvy he is. It's just the experience. If you could get a guy in the Winslow for an hour before a game who came to Liverpool or up to the museum or on a tour, if
He
you
might
can
not
make
remember
all of
what
that,
happened.
yeah, he won't remember it, but he'll be like, I kind of like
Best
those
memory of all
guys.
time.
I'm not sure why.
One interesting thing that we learned about just a couple weeks ago is the under-21 Everton team is coming to Dallas, Texas for the big Dallas Cup. And I think that's very important as well. We have a big, you know, the Northern Texas Toffee group in Dallas. The club said, we need to get those guys really excited, enthusiastic, go to the game. And I think it starts there too. It doesn't always have to
They're
be
gonna
the first
embarrass
team.
the hell out of the
It-
Dallas, the
It
team in Dallas.
could be the under-21 team that comes, or
Yeah,
it could
yeah.
be, just a presence there
The ladies
as
team
much
as
as
well,
possible.
something like that,
yeah.
Of course,
yeah.
yes,
I mean,
because women's soccer in America is huge.
If Everton go over there and take the likes of Ryan Ledson, who will be an Everton first team player, no question about it. Players like that. That's
And the
great for
legends.
you guys.
And look,
I was just going to say,
Anthony Robinson, who plays on the under-18 U.S. team, is in the Everton Academy, and we're all aware of him. We're psyched. We were hoping we'd run into him while we were just on our tour.
it's a big, I mean, I go to Florida quite a lot, and seeing that shift in shirts when I started going out in the mid-90s, you'd see Man United, Liverpool, see a lot of Evertonians would wear it there, but unbelievable the amount of Chelsea shirts. I see more Chelsea in Disney World now than I've seen years, and a lot. Interestingly, you think there's some Cockneys here, and they're all American, all with Chelsea shirts, but
Sure.
so they've got names on the back, and
the
things you
history
can
of the
tell it
Premier
into.
League to us include, if you ask American kids, they say Man City is a massive club. They say Chelsea is,
You need
they're,
to correct them and say
they're an
they're
all-star
rich.
team.
Rich, they're not massive, they're rich.
Exactly. But they don't, the perspective is completely different, and a lot of the perspective can be changed, and maybe some of the success of Everton getting ahead of this all is that Tim Howard is on TV. Roberto was he brought us the World Cup, and he was frankly the least idiotic of all the guys doing the thing, doing the games.
Just finally, I mean, we've talked about going over there, and it'd be great if there's another tour or whatever. But
And we're on it.
yeah, we're on, of course. But you guys coming over here, do you think there could be a little bit more done for the casual fan coming over here? Because this is something we've spoke about before. I mean, you have had the tour and all the rest of it. But would you like it coming from where you have come from America and how big it is hospitality-wise? If you could just rock up to the ground and maybe there is a museum you can go and walk into and see the history, maybe a cafe where you can just go and grab something to eat, maybe playing all the videos, all the games. Would that be a nice little thing as well that the club should really look at?
Look, we don't come over here for the
Not
U.S.
you, not you.
No, but Americans don't come over here to have the U.S. experience, right? Like, I'm a Clippers season ticket holder. You can going to a Clippers game is like going to a fancy mall, right? They've got McDonald's and they've got food, and you stand up and you do this, and they got the interactive thing. We come for the authentic experience, and going to the Royal Oak and going to the Winslow and going to St. Luke's, which is just absolutely charming, right?
As you need to, in the future, there has to be some of those elements because it adds to the cash flow. And to be a bigger club with more money, you have to have all those kind of accoutrements.
But even not just from that point of view, just from the point of maybe having a museum where you guys can go, walk up and go, well, yeah, there's that thing and there's that thing. And
have a coffee in it. I mean, I've said that I worked there for 11 years, and occasionally they'd open a cafe. It didn't stay open very long, and it's shut. But we'd always comment that you'd drive past Anfield at any time. There's people there, bags in it. There's lots of day trippers there and everything else. Outstanding as a museum. We need to replicate that here. Even we're talking about Americans coming over, but people coming from London, people coming from Europe. There should be something here at the stadium that sticks you here, so you can come on a Tuesday when there's nothing going on and go, I'll tell you what, we'll go and have a look around the museum, we'll have a coffee, we'll watch a couple of videos, and then we move back on again.
A couple times at our hotel, we've asked for taxis to take us up at night to this area, and they go, I don't know about that.
We'll do a drive past.
on that note.
I don't want to leave it like that.
We found it just beautiful and
it's
hospitable,
charming.
and people love it. We love it. Yeah, we're so happy.
Well, listen, big thanks for you to come on the show.
Hey, we love you guys.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
We watch all the time.
But it's really fascinating to get your perspective on it, and also to dismiss any myths about Americans, although you have held up your Tim Howard myth. So, so big thanks to the guys from Everton USA, Marshall and Dave for coming on the show.
Keep spreading the gospel.
That's it. Keep spreading it. Get us another tour and get us onto it as well.
Yeah,
so from Baz and myself, Ped, we'll catch you next week.
Hi, I'm Roberto Martinez, and you're watching Toffee TV.